The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows of the Mitchell estate, but Nora felt no warmth. She stood in the center of the lavish living room, her hands trembling as she faced her father, Thomas Mitchell. The man who had once carried her on his shoulders now looked at her like she was an unwelcome guest. "Dad, please listen to me," Nora said, her voice steady, despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Mom needs this surgery. Without it, she has 3 months, maybe less." Thomas sank deeper into his leather armchair, the newspaper in his hands serving as a barrier between them. "Nora, business has been challenging lately. I simply cannot allocate those funds right now." A bitter laugh escaped Nora's lips. "You bought Veronica a new Mercedes last Tuesday. I saw it in the driveway." From the spiral staircase, a sugary voice interrupted. "Thomas, darling, is someone causing a scene down there?" Veronica descended the stairs like a queen, approaching her throne. Her silk dress rustled with each step, and her smile held all the warmth of a winter storm. Behind her, stepping carefully in designer heels, came Cassidy, Nora's stepsister. "Oh, it's just Nora," Veronica said with mock surprise. "What brings you back to our home, dear?" "This was my home long before it became yours," Nora replied, keeping her voice level. "I'm here because I need help. $60,000 for Mom's surgery. I'll pay back every penny with interest."
That's...
Veronica settled onto the velvet sofa, arranging her dress with deliberate care. $60,000? My goodness, Nora. That's quite a sum for someone who works 3 jobs just to make rent, which is exactly why I'm asking for a loan, not a gift. Cassidy giggled from the staircase. "Maybe you should have thought about money before dropping out of medical school to play nurse." Nora's jaw clenched. "I left school because Mom got sick. Someone had to take care of her after Dad decided his new family was more important." "That's enough," Thomas said, finally looking up. "Nora, I understand you're upset, but the situation is complicated." "Complicated?" Nora took a step forward. "Mom is dying, and you're calling it complicated?" Veronica raised a perfectly manicured hand. "Actually, there might be a solution to everyone's problems. A way to help your mother and resolve a rather delicate situation we're facing." Nora felt her stomach drop. "What kind of solution?" "A marriage arrangement," Veronica said, her eyes gleaming. "You see, Cassidy was supposed to marry Vincent Shaw next month. You remember him? The heir to Shaw Enterprises." "The man who got arrested for fraud?" Nora asked, confused. "Precisely." Veronica crossed her legs. Poor Vincent was wrongly accused, of course, but the scandal destroyed his reputation. His family disowned him, his fortune disappeared, and he spent 6 months in prison. He was released last week. Cassidy made a disgusted sound. "There's no way I'm marrying a broke ex-convict." "I have standards." Nora looked between them, understanding dawning with sickening clarity. "You want me to take her place?" "The marriage contract still stands," Veronica explained. "Vincent and his family insist on honoring it. But naturally, we cannot sacrifice our Cassidy's future. However, you could step in. In exchange, we'll cover all your mother's medical expenses. Every surgery, every treatment, every medication she needs." The room spun. Nora grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. "You're blackmailing me." "We're offering you a choice," Veronica corrected. "Marry Vincent Shaw, and your mother lives. Refuse, and well, hospitals don't provide treatment for free." Thomas finally spoke, though he wouldn't meet Nora's eyes. "Your mother is a good woman, Nora. She deserves a chance. This arrangement would solve everything." "Everything for you," Nora whispered. "You get to maintain your precious reputation. Cassidy avoids an inconvenient marriage, and I get to sacrifice my entire life." "Oh, please, it's not that dramatic." "You get to marry a rich guy. Well, formerly rich, and you save your mom. It's practically romantic." "There's nothing romantic about being traded like property." Veronica stood, smoothing her dress. "Think of it as a business transaction. Vincent gets his bride, satisfying his family's expectations. You get your mother's life saved. Everyone wins. Except me," Nora said. "You get the most important thing," Veronica replied coldly. "Your mother's survival. The wedding is in 5 days." Private ceremony. No press. No fuss. Vincent will be released from prison on Thursday. That gives you exactly 1 day to prepare. Wait. Nora's eyes widened. He's still in prison? Just finishing his sentence, Veronica waved dismissively. Minor technicality. The ceremony is scheduled for Friday afternoon at the courthouse. Simple, quick, painless. Nora looked at her father, searching his face for any sign of the man who used to read her bedtime stories, who used to call her his little star. She found only a stranger wearing his face. Dad, are you really going to let this happen? Thomas cleared his throat. Nora, your mother needs help. This is the only way I can provide it. Veronica is being generous to even offer this solution. Generous, Nora repeated, numb lie. Veronica moved toward the door, clearly considering the conversation finished. We'll need your answer by tomorrow morning. The hospital call today? Your mother's condition is worsening. They need payment by week's end, or they'll discontinue treatment. The words hit Nora like physical blows. She thought of her mother's gentle smile, her warm hugs, her unwavering support through every challenge. She thought of the woman who had sacrificed everything to raise her alone after Thomas left, who had worked 2 jobs to send her to college, who had never once made her feel like a burden. I need to think about it, Nora managed to say. Of course, dear. Take your time. Veronica's smile was triumphant. You have until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. After that, the offer expires. Heart-wrenching decision, Nora walked out of the mansion into the cool evening air. The sun had set while she was inside, and the street lamps cast pools of golden light on the sidewalk. She walked without direction, her mind racing. Marry a stranger? A convicted criminal? A man she'd never met, whose life had fallen apart, who probably resented this arrangement as much as she did. Give up any chance at a normal life, at love, at happiness. But the alternative was watching her mother die. Nora found herself at a small park 2 blocks from the mansion. She sat on a bench, watching children play on the swings while their parents chatted nearby. Normal families? Happy families? She pulled out her phone and looked at her background photo. Her mother at her college graduation, beaming with pride despite the exhaustion in her eyes from working double shifts. That woman had given Nora everything. How could she not do the same in return? The phone rang. The hospital, Miss Mitchell. This is Cedar Memorial Hospital. We're calling about your mother's treatment plan. Nora closed her eyes. I know. I'm working on the payment. I'm afraid we need confirmation by Friday at noon. Without it, we'll have to discontinue the specialized care and move her to general ward. That'll kill her. The nurse's voice softened. We're doing everything we can, but hospital policy requires payment for continued treatment. I'm sorry. After the call ended, Nora sat in silence. The children's laughter faded as families headed home for dinner. The park emptied. Darkness settled over everything. She thought about Vincent Shaw. What kind of man agrees to marry a stranger? Was he angry about the arrangement? Desperate? Did he even care who showed up at the courthouse? As long as someone did? Her phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. Time is running out, Nora. Make the right choice. The right choice. As if there was anything right about any of this, Nora stood up, her decision made. She walked back toward the Mitchell mansion with steady steps. This time, she didn't ring the doorbell. She walked right in, finding Veronica and Thomas in the dining room, finishing their evening meal. I'll do it, Nora said. I'll marry Vincent Shaw. Veronica's smile was immediate and cold. Excellent decision. I'll make the arrangements, but I want it in writing, Nora continued. A legal contract stating you'll cover all of Mom's medical expenses. Every treatment, every medication, everything she needs for as long as she needs it. Thomas started to protest, but Veronica cut him off. Done. I'll have our lawyer draw up the papers tomorrow. I want to see Mom. Tonight. Before all this happens, of course, Veronica said. After all, you'll want to say goodbye to your old life. Nora turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. She looked back at her father one last time. I hope it was worth it, Dad. Trading your daughter for your comfortable life? Thomas opened his mouth, but no words came out. Nora left without waiting for a response. Outside, The night air felt different, colder. She was walking toward a future she never chose. Marrying a man she never met, all to save the one person who ever truly loved her. "Mom," she whispered into the darkness, "only for you." But somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice wondered what kind of man she was about to marry, and whether this desperate agreement would destroy them both, or somehow impossibly save them. Friday morning arrived with gray skies and the promise of rain. Nora woke at dawn in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling as reality crashed over her. Today, she would marry a complete stranger. Today, her entire life would change. She had visited her mother the night before at Cedar Memorial Hospital. Grace Mitchell had looked so small in that hospital bed, her once vibrant face now pale and tired. Nora had held her hand, memorizing every detail, storing the warmth of her mother's touch like a treasure. "You look worried, sweetheart," Grace had whispered. "What's troubling you?" Nora had smiled through her tears. "Nothing, Mom. Just thinking about how much I love you." She hadn't told her mother about the wedding. There would be time for explanations later, after the surgery. After Grace was strong enough to handle the truth, now, sitting alone in her apartment, Nora pulled out the simple cream-colored dress she had purchased from a thrift store. Nothing extravagant, nothing white. This wasn't that kind of wedding. This was a transaction, a business deal wrapped in legal vows. Her phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. "Car will be there at 10. Don't be late." Nora dressed slowly, brushed her honey-colored hair until it shone, and applied minimal makeup. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back looked older, sadder, resigned to a fate she never chose. The black car arrived precisely at 10. The driver said nothing during the 20-minute ride to the courthouse. Nora watched the city pass by through tinted windows, wondering if Vincent Shaw was doing the same thing, sitting in another car, heading toward the same unwanted destination. Meeting Vincent Shaw at the courthouse was a plain gray building downtown, all function and no romance. Nora walked through the heavy doors into a sterile hallway that smelled of floor polish and old paper. A clerk directed her to a small ceremony room on the second floor. Veronica was already there, checking her watch impatiently. Thomas stood near the window, hands in his pockets. Cassidy lounged in a chair, scrolling through her phone with bored indifference. 2 witnesses Veronica had hired sat quietly in the back row, but Vincent Shaw had not arrived. "Where is he?" Nora asked, her voice echoing in the nearly empty room. "Late, apparently," Veronica said with irritation. How typical. Nora felt a strange mixture of relief and disappointment. Maybe he wouldn't show up. Maybe this whole thing would fall apart. She could find another way to help her mother. But then the doors opened. Vincent Shaw walked in, and Nora forgot to breathe. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead. His eyes were an unusual shade of gray-green, intelligent and guarded. He wore a simple black suit that looked expensive despite its understated style. There was something commanding about his presence. Something that didn't match the story of a broken, disgraced criminal. He looked directly at Nora, and for a moment, the rest of the room disappeared. "You must be Nora," he said, his voice low and steady. "And you're Vincent." He moved closer, studying her face with an intensity that made her heart race. "Did they tell you what you were getting into?" "A marriage to a convicted criminal who lost everything," Nora replied honestly. "Did they tell you the same?" A flicker of something passed through his eyes. Amusement, maybe? Or respect? "They told me you were doing this to save your mother." Nora's throat tightened. "They told you that?" I asked questions, glanced at Veronica with what looked like contempt. I wanted to know who I was marrying and why. The judge entered before Nora could respond, an older woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Shall we begin?" The ceremony was brief and mechanical. The judge read the legal requirements in a flat voice. Vincent's responses were clear and firm. When it came time for Nora to speak, her voice trembled only slightly. "Do you, Nora Grace Mitchell, take Vincent Shaw to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Nora looked at Vincent. He was watching her with those piercing eyes, and she saw something unexpected there. Not cruelty or indifference, but something almost like understanding. "I do," she said. The judge declared them married. No kiss, no celebration, just the scratch of pen on paper as they signed the certificate. Veronica approached immediately. "Excellent. The contract regarding your mother's medical care will be executed today. Congratulations." Her tone made it clear she found nothing congratulatory about the situation. Vincent's assistant, a serious-looking man in his 30s, stepped forward. "Mr. Shaw, the car is waiting." "Where are we going?" Nora asked, suddenly realizing she had no idea what happened next. Vincent turned to her. "Home. Our home." A house, not a home. The house Vincent brought her to was nothing like what Nora had imagined. It sat on a quiet street in a modest neighborhood, a small single-story building with faded blue paint and a yard that needed attention. It looked like something a young couple just starting out might rent, not the residence of a former corporate heir. "This is it," Vincent said, unlocking the front door. Nora stepped inside. The living room was simply furnished with a worn sofa, a coffee table that had seen better days, and minimal decoration. Everything was clean but clearly secondhand. "I know it's not much," Vincent said, watching her reaction. "It's fine," Nora replied. "I wasn't expecting a palace," he almost smiled. "Good, because this is definitely not a palace." They stood in awkward silence for a moment. Two strangers now legally bound together. Neither quite sure what to say or do next. "We should establish some ground rules," Vincent finally said. "I was thinking the same thing." They sat on the sofa, maintaining careful distance between them. Vincent leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "In public, we're a married couple. We act the part. But here in private, we're just two people who made an arrangement. No pressure, no expectations." "I can agree to that." "You take the bedroom?" "I'll sleep out here on the couch. You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do." His voice was firm. "You didn't ask for this situation. The least I can do is give you your own space." "Eh?" Nora felt unexpected gratitude wash over her. "Thank you." Vincent stood and grabbed his jacket. "I need to go take care of some things." "Will you be all right here alone for a few hours?" "I'll be fine. I'm used to being alone." Something flickered in his expression. "I'll be back before dinner." After he left, Nora explored the small house. The bedroom was simple but comfortable, with a dresser, a small closet, and a window overlooking the backyard. The kitchen was outdated but functional. Everything spoke of a man who had indeed lost his fortune and was starting over from scratch. She found herself wondering about him. Vincent Shaw didn't act like a criminal or someone broken by circumstance. There was intelligence in his eyes, confidence in his bearing. What had really happened to him? What had led to his arrest and conviction? And why did he agree to this arranged marriage? Small beginnings that evening, Vincent returned with groceries. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got basics." They cooked dinner together, moving around the small kitchen in careful coordination. Vincent made pasta while Nora prepared a simple salad. The domesticity of it felt surreal. "So," Nora said as they ate at the small kitchen table, "what do you do for work?" "I work at a warehouse," Vincent replied without looking up. "Loading trucks, moving inventory. It's honest work. It must be quite a change from running a corporation." His eyes snapped to hers. "What do you know about that?" "Just what I read online. Shaw Enterprises. Corporate fraud charges. 6 months in prison." Nora kept her voice neutral. "I figured I should know something about the man I married." Vincent set down his fork. "And what did your research tell you?" "That you were accused of financial manipulation, that your family disowned you, that you lost everything." She paused. "But it didn't tell me if you actually did it. Does it matter?" "Maybe. I'm trying to understand who you are." Vincent studied her for a long moment. "I was framed by my business partner. He manipulated records to make it look like I was embezzling funds. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. The evidence against me was overwhelming, even though it was fake. Did you try to prove your innocence?" "Of course. But my partner was thorough. He had been planning it for years, slowly building a case against me while covering his own tracks." Vincent's jaw tightened. My own family believed the lies. They cut me off without even listening to my side. Nora felt a pang of sympathy. I'm sorry. Don't be. I learned who my real allies were. Turns out, I didn't have many. I understand that feeling, Nora said quietly. My father chose his new family over me and my mother. When Mom got sick, he couldn't be bothered to help unless it benefited him somehow. Vincent's expression softened. So we're both here because of family betrayal. Seems like it. They finished dinner in more comfortable silence. Afterward, Vincent insisted on washing dishes, while Nora dried. It was strange how quickly they fell into a rhythm, like they had been doing this for years instead of hours. I start work early tomorrow, Vincent said. But I'll leave money for groceries if you need anything. Actually, I was thinking of starting a small business, Nora said. I'm good at baking. I thought I could make desserts and sell them downtown. Vincent looked surprised. You don't have to do that. I can support us. I want to contribute. I'm not good at sitting around doing nothing. A genuine smile crossed his face. All right. If that's what you want, I'll help however I can. Unexpected connections. The next few weeks fell into an unexpected pattern. Vincent left early for his warehouse job and returned in the evenings. Nora spent her days developing recipes and building her small business. She called it Sweet Grace, naming it after her mother. Her jar desserts became popular quickly. She made layered cakes in mason jars, chocolate mousse, fruit parfaits, all beautifully presented and delicious. She sold them at a busy intersection downtown, and within days, she had regular customers. Vincent helped in small ways. He built her a portable display stand for the jars. He drove her downtown on rainy days. He taste tested new recipes and offered honest feedback. This chocolate one is incredible, he said one evening, savoring a spoonful. Really? You're not just being nice? I'm never just nice, he replied with a slight smile. It's genuinely good. You could charge more for these. Nora felt warmth spread through her chest. His approval mattered more than she wanted to admit. They started having dinner together every night, sharing stories about their days. Vincent told her about his co-workers at the warehouse, making her laugh with impressions of his demanding supervisor. Nora described her regular customers, the sweet elderly woman who bought 3 jars every Friday, the businessman who always requested extra chocolate one evening. Nora was carrying groceries from the bus stop when a bag broke, sending oranges rolling down the sidewalk. She scrambled to catch them, laughing at her own clumsiness. Vincent appeared from around the corner, returning from work. He immediately started helping, chasing down runaway fruit. You should have called me, he said, gathering oranges into his arms. I would have picked you up. You were working. I didn't want to bother you. He stopped and looked at her seriously. Nora, you're my wife. You're never a bother. The word wife hung in the air between them. For the first time, it didn't sound like a legal obligation. It sounded like something real. That night, as Nora lay in bed, she realized something terrifying. She was developing feelings for Vincent Shaw. Real feelings. The kind that made her heart race when he walked through the door. The kind that made her smile when she thought about him during the day. She had married him to save her mother. She never expected to actually care about him, but here she was. Lying awake, thinking about his rare smiles and the gentle way he helped her without being asked. Thinking about how safe she felt when he was near, how right it seemed when they worked together in the kitchen. On the other side of the wall, Vincent sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling. He was thinking about Nora too, about her determination and strength, about the way she laughed at her own mistakes, about how she had transformed their house into something that almost felt like a home. He had agreed to this. Marriage as part of a larger plan. But somewhere along the way, Nora Mitchell had become more than just part of that plan. She had become someone he looked forward to seeing, someone whose happiness mattered to him. Vincent pulled out his phone and sent a text to his assistant. Move to the next phase, but carefully. I don't want her hurt. The response came immediately. Understood, sir. Vincent set down the phone and closed his eyes. He was falling for his wife, and that complicated everything. Because Nora didn't know the truth. She didn't know who he really was or why he had really agreed to this marriage. And when she found out, Vincent wasn't sure she would ever forgive him. 3 months into their marriage, Nora woke up feeling happier than she had in years. Her dessert business was thriving. Her mother's health was improving with the treatments, and most surprisingly, her relationship with Vincent deepened into something beautiful and unexpected. She had fallen in love with her husband. It happened gradually, like watching the sunrise. Small moments accumulated into something undeniable. The way Vincent always saved the last bite of dinner for her, how he memorized her coffee order, the gentle touch of his hand on her back when they walked together, the late-night conversations where they shared dreams and fears. Last week, they had kissed for the first time. Really kissed, not the awkward peck at their courthouse wedding. They had been cooking together, and Nora had accidentally splashed tomato sauce on Vincent's shirt. She had been apologizing and laughing, trying to wipe it off, when he caught her hand and pulled her close. The kiss had been soft at first, tentative, questioning. Then it deepened into something that took Nora's breath away. When they finally pulled apart, Vincent had rested his forehead against hers and whispered, "I've wanted to do that for weeks." Since then, everything had shifted. They held hands while watching television. Vincent started sleeping in the bedroom, though they both stayed on their respective sides of the bed at first. The barriers between them were slowly crumbling. This morning, Nora hummed while getting dressed. She had a large order to deliver downtown, 50 desert jars for a corporate event. It was her biggest order yet. She felt proud of how far she had come. Vincent had already left for work, leaving a note on the kitchen counter. "Good luck with the big order today. You're going to be amazing. See you tonight." Nora smiled, tucking the note into her pocket like a treasure. The corporate event, the address for the delivery was in the financial district. A gleaming tower of glass and steel that seemed to touch the clouds. Nora had never been to this part of the city before. She felt small, carrying her boxes of desserts through the marble lobby. The receptionist directed her to the executive floor. "Take the elevator to the top. They're setting up in the conference room." As Nora rode up in the elevator, she admired the view of the city spreading below. This was a different world from the one she knew. A world of power and money and influence. The elevator doors opened onto a floor that looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive artwork, thick carpeting that absorbed sound. Nora followed signs toward the conference room. Trying not to feel out of place, she heard voices ahead, professional and brisk. Following the sound, she found herself approaching a glass-walled conference room where several people in expensive suits were gathered around a table. Then, she heard a voice that stopped her. "Cold, the quarterly projections look solid. If we maintain current growth rates, we'll exceed targets by 15%. Vincent's voice. Nora's heart stuttered. She moved closer to the conference room, boxes still in her arms, and looked through the glass wall. Vincent stood at the head of the table, commanding the room with natural authority. He wore an immaculate navy suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. His hair was styled differently, more formal. He gestured at charts on a screen, speaking with confidence about profit margins and market expansion. "Mr. Shaw," one of the executives said, "what about the Henderson acquisition?" "We move forward cautiously," Vincent replied. "I want a full audit before we commit resources." "Mr. Shaw." They were calling him Mr. Shaw, not Vincent the warehouse worker. But Mr. Shaw, the executive, the boxers slipped from Nora's hands and crashed to the floor. Several people in the conference room turned toward the sound, but Vincent had his back to the glass, focused on the presentation screen. Nora didn't wait. She turned and ran, leaving the scattered desert jars behind. She stabbed the elevator button repeatedly, tears already streaming down her face. When the doors finally opened, she stumbled inside and collapsed against the wall. He had lied. Everything was a lie. Unraveling the truth, Nora barely remembered the bus ride home. She moved through the city in a daze, her mind racing with questions and realizations. The modest house, the warehouse job. The struggle to make ends meet, a lot of it had been an act. When she reached their house, she went straight to the bedroom. If Vincent had been lying about his job, what else had he lied about? What else was she about to discover? She started searching methodically. The dresser drawers revealed nothing unusual. The closet contained the simple clothes she had always seen him wear. But in the back of the closet, pushed behind shoeboxes, she found a leather briefcase. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were documents, legal papers, financial statements, all bearing the Shaw Enterprises logo. But what caught her attention was a folder with her name on it. Nora pulled it out and opened it, with shaking hands. The first page was a background check report. Her full name, birth date, social security number. The next pages detailed her entire life. School records with grades and attendance. Employment history listing every job she had ever worked. Financial records showing her bank balance, her debts, her mother's medical bills. There were photographs. Her at her college graduation. Her working at the diner where she had waitressed. Her visiting her mother at the hospital. Someone had been watching her, investigating her, documenting her entire existence. The report was dated 2 weeks before their wedding. Nora felt sick. She flipped through more pages, finding detailed notes about her relationship with her father, her stepsister, her mother's illness. Everything was there. Every private detail of her life reduced to clinical observations on paper. At the bottom of the folder was a memo. On Shaw Enterprises letterhead. Subject: Nora Mitchell's suitability assessment for marriage arrangement. Conclusion: subject appears genuine. No indication of gold-digging behavior or ulterior motives. Recommendation: proceed with arrangement. Nora dropped the folder like it had burned her. She had been investigated, assessed, judged like a product being considered for purchase. And Vincent had known everything about her before they even met. The confrontation, she sat on the bed, surrounded by evidence of Vincent's deception, and felt her world crumble. Everything she thought they had built together was based on lies. Every moment of connection, every shared laugh, every tender gesture, all of it happened while he was pretending to be someone he wasn't. The front door opened. "Nora, are you home?" Vincent's voice, so familiar now, so dear, and so false. Nora didn't answer. She heard his footsteps coming down the hall, quick and concerned. He appeared in the bedroom doorway and froze when he saw her sitting on the bed with the folder open. Beside her, "Nora," he said carefully, "let me explain." "Explain what?" Her voice sounded hollow even to her own ears. "Explain how you're actually a billionaire CEO. Explain how you investigated every detail of my life. Explain which parts of the last 3 months were real and which parts were just you playing a role." Vincent stepped into the room, hands raised placatingly. "Everything between us has been real. Don't." Nora stood up, anger finally breaking through the numbness. "Don't you dare tell me it was real when our entire relationship is built on lies. I never lied about my feelings for you. You lied about everything else." She threw the folder at him, papers scattering across the floor. "You pretended to be poor. You pretended to work at a warehouse. You let me believe we were struggling together when you're worth millions." Vincent's jaw clenched. "I had my reasons." "Oh, I'm sure you did. Let me guess, you wanted to make sure I wasn't a gold digger. You wanted to test me to see if I was worthy of the great Vincent Shaw? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like?" Nora demanded. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you treated me like a science experiment. You investigated me, assessed me, and decided I was suitable for your purposes." "What were those purposes, Vincent? Why did you really agree to this marriage?" Vincent ran a hand through his hair, his composure finally cracking. "Because I was trying to rebuild my life after everything fell apart. Because my family made it clear I would never get control of Shaw Enterprises back unless I demonstrated stability. A wife was part of that demonstration." The words hit Nora like physical blows. "So I was just a prop in your corporate comeback story." "No, that's not. And the modest house. The warehouse job? That was all part of what? Testing my character? Making sure I would love you even when you pretended to have nothing?" "I wanted to know if you were real," Vincent said, his voice rising. "I've been lied to and betrayed by people who claimed to love me. My business partner, my family, women who only saw my bank account. I needed to know you were different." "So you lied to me to see if I was honest?" Nora laughed bitterly. Do you hear how insane that sounds? I was protecting myself. By investigating me like a criminal? By documenting my entire life without my knowledge or consent? She pointed at the scattered papers. Did you enjoy reading about my struggles? About how I dropped out of school to care for my dying mother? Did that convince you I was authentic enough for your standards? Vincent's face paled. That's not fair. Fair? Nora's voice broke. You want to talk about fair? I married you to save my mother's life. I gave up everything, walked into this arrangement blind, with nothing but hope that maybe, somehow, we could make it work. And you walked in with a background check and a strategic plan? Nora, please, did you laugh at me? When I started my little dessert business, trying so hard to contribute to help with money you didn't even need, did you think it was cute? Amusing? I thought you were incredible, Vincent said quietly. I thought your determination and strength were the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. Don't. Tears streamed down Nora's face. Don't use pretty words now. You had 3 months to tell me the truth. 3 months of playing house, of pretending we were building something real together. When were you planning to tell me? After a year? After I fell completely in love with you and couldn't walk away? Vincent went very still. You love me. Nora turned away, wrapping her arms around herself. It doesn't matter now. It matters to me. He moved closer. Nora, I love you too. That's real. That's the truest thing in all of this. How am I supposed to believe that? She spun to face him. How am I supposed to believe anything you say when you've been lying since the moment we met? I stopped pretending weeks ago, Vincent insisted. Everything that's happened between us lately, that's been real. The way I feel about you is real. But you never told me the truth. Even when we got closer, even when we kissed, even when you said you cared about me, you kept lying. Vincent's shoulders sagged. I was afraid. Afraid that if you knew the truth, you would see me differently. That you would start treating me like everyone else does, like my money is the only thing that matters. So instead you treated me like an idiot. Nora wiped her tears angrily. You let me worry about grocery money? You let me sell my possessions to help my mother when you could have paid for everything with pocket change. You watched me struggle and did nothing. I was going to tell you, Vincent said desperately. I was waiting for the right moment. There's never a right moment for lies this big. The silence stretched between them, heavy with heartbreak and betrayal. Nora looked at the man she had married, the man she had fallen in love with, and saw a stranger. I need you to leave, she said quietly. What? Leave. Go stay at one of your mansions or penthouses, or wherever billionaires go when their lies catch up with them. I can't look at you right now. Nora, please, let's talk about this. We are talking about it. Her voice rose again, and every word makes it worse. You don't trust me, Vincent. You never did. You hired investigators and collected data and made calculated decisions about our relationship while I was just falling in love with who I thought you were. I do trust you now. I trust you completely. It's too late. Nora's voice cracked. The damage is done. You can't investigate someone's entire life and then claim you trust them. You can't build love on a foundation of lies and expect it to stand. Vincent looked like he might argue, but something in Nora's expression stopped him. He bent down slowly and gathered the scattered papers, placing them back in the folder. Then he straightened and met her eyes. I'm sorry, he said. I know that's not enough, but I am truly, deeply sorry. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. Nora turned away. You hurt me worse than anyone ever has, because I actually trusted you. I let myself be vulnerable with you. I thought we were partners. We are partners. Partners don't lie to each other. She heard him move toward the door. Vincent. He stopped. Yes. Was any of it real? The flowers you picked? The way you helped with my business? The nights we stayed up talking? All of it, Vincent said, his voice thick with emotion. Every single moment was real. The man you fell in love with? That's who I really am. The money, the company, the status, those are just circumstances. But my feelings for you, those are the realest thing in my life. Nora closed her eyes. I wish I could believe that. She heard the door close softly as Vincent left. Then she heard the front door open and close. The house fell silent. Nora collapsed onto the bed, and let herself fall apart. She cried for the relationship she thought she had. She cried for the trust that had been shattered. She cried for the love that might have been real, but would never be enough to overcome the lies. Aftermaths passed. The sun set outside the bedroom window, painting the room in shades of orange and purple. Nora lay on the bed, emotionally exhausted, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother's nurse. "Just wanted to let you know Grace is doing wonderfully. The treatments are working better than we hoped. She's asking about you." Nora smiled despite everything. Her mother was getting better. Whatever else had happened, whatever else had fallen apart, at least she had accomplished that. Another text came through. This one from Vincent. "I've made arrangements for your mother's care to continue indefinitely, regardless of what happens between us. I've also transferred enough money to your account to keep your business running and cover your living expenses. You don't owe me anything. I'm sorry for everything. I love you." Nora read the message 3 times. Part of her wanted to throw the phone across the room. Another part wanted to call him and demand more answers. But mostly, she just felt tired. She had married a stranger to save her mother. Then she had fallen in love with that stranger, only to discover he was someone else entirely. Now she had to figure out who Nora Shaw really was and what she wanted from this impossible situation. One thing was certain: her life would never be simple again. The question was whether the love she felt for Vincent was strong enough to overcome the betrayal, or whether some lies were too big to forgive. As darkness settled over the city, Nora made a decision. She would visit her mother tomorrow. She would hold Grace's hand and tell her everything. Then she would figure out her next steps, because Nora Mitchell Shaw was stronger than anyone had ever given her credit for. She had survived her father's abandonment, her mother's illness, and an arranged marriage to a convicted criminal. She would survive this too, even if her heart was broken in the process. The story of Nora and Vincent wasn't over, but whether it would end in forgiveness or goodbye, only time would tell.